Thank you, Presiding Officer. On Saturday, a woman tragically died at a music festival on Skye. At the same festival, 27-year-old Eilidh Beaton nearly lost her life when no ambulances were available. Eilidh told the Press and Journal, "I was coming in and out of consciousness. My airways were shutting down. I could not breathe. At one point, I thought, if I don't get oxygen, I will not be here tomorrow." We spoke with Eilidh last night and she said this: "We were 200 yards from Portree Hospital. A local Coast Guard offered to carry me to the hospital, but we were told there was no point because it was closed. So I would just be left lying outside. One life has been lost, another was very nearly lost. Does John Swinney accept this should never have been allowed to happen?"
First Minister.
Presiding Officer, I agree with Mr Ross. This should never have happened. I first of all want to express my sincere condolences to the family of the individual who lost their life. And I want to say to Eilidh directly that I am sorry for the experience, the terrifying experience that she had on Saturday night. As Mr Ross will be aware, Portree Hospital is not operating currently as a 24/7 emergency facility. Sir Lewis Ritchie recommended some years ago that it should be, and it is a matter of deep concern to the Government that that has not happened. And the Health Secretary spoke with the leadership of NHS Highland yesterday to make it clear that we want that to happen at the earliest possible opportunity. And I want to say to the individuals who supported Eilidh, also to the ambulance crews, the Portree ambulance was away from Portree at the time. Ambulances came to Portree from Dunvegan and from Kyle, which obviously involves, as Mr Ross will know, quite a travel time to get there. So those ambulances got there as quickly as possible. But I want to say to the individuals who supported Eilidh, RNLI volunteers and others, the admiration and appreciation of the Government for the steps they took to support an individual in our society.
Douglas Ross.
We all have admiration for those who stepped in to help, but it should never have got to that stage. And John Swinney says he has deep concern that the recommendations of the report have not been implemented. It's far worse than that. It is far worse than that. It's more than a few years ago, First Minister. It's 6 years ago. May 2018, this report was published. 6 years ago. This was an independent, external review of out-of-hour health services in Skye, Lachalsh and the surrounding area. The very first recommendation, recommendation number 1 of this review from May 2018, says this: out-of-hours urgent care access at Portree Hospital should be provided 24/7. It also said there should be no closure of Portree Hospital in the out-of-hours period. It said the Scottish Ambulance Service should increase its paramedic staff capacity and capability in the region. But Eilidh said this when we spoke to her last night. These are her words, First Minister. "The report has been on the table for 6 years saying that we need 24-hour urgent care. They keep making these promises but delivering no action, making the same excuses. So why, in the last 6 years, have the recommendations of this independent report not been implemented?"
First Minister.
I understand the genuine concern that Mr Ross is expressing to Parliament today, and I take that very seriously. But I have to point out, and Mr Ross is correct that this report came in 2018, but there has been a 3-year period since then in which the 24/7 emergency care arrangements were provided at Portree Hospital, but they have not been able to be sustained because of workforce challenges in the locality. Now, I accept that is not good enough, which is why the Health Secretary has spoken to NHS Highland to insist that those arrangements must be put in place. But there is, of course, a challenge in relation to some of the workforce issues because of the availability of staff, because of some of the issues in connection with availability of housing. And I would say to Mr Ross that there is ambulance cover available in Dunvegan, in Portree and also in Kyle, and also, of course, at the Broadford Hospital. But I don't in any way want to say that that is good enough. The recommendations of Sir Lewis Ritchie must be implemented, and the Health Secretary has made that point directly and clearly to NHS Highland. But as a matter of fact, there was a 3-year period where these recommendations were in force, but they haven't been able to be sustained because of workforce challenges.
Douglas Ross.
I don't think the First Minister, and I know he's not trying to do this, and he is treating this issue sensitively, as I think we all are, but it's no comfort to Eilidh, who thought her airway was closing, who thought if she didn't get oxygen that she may not see the next day. She will take absolutely zero comfort from the fact that in 3 of the last 6 years there was 24/7 care, because when there was a major event in Skye, it wasn't available. And the First Minister says we will implement the recommendations of the report. Why are we hearing that now from the First Minister and from the Health Secretary, not when the report was published 6 years ago? And 6 years ago, the local MSP for the area, Kate Forbes, said the situation was utterly unacceptable and the out-of-hours closure was another step in the wrong direction. The Deputy First Minister said this week, enough is enough. It has been 6 years and the timescales for delivering the report recommendations keep shifting. This is the Deputy First Minister saying this. She added, there must be accountability. Well, we agree, but it's the SNP government in which she serves who need to be accountable. Kate Forbes was the Finance Secretary for years. She's now the Deputy First Minister, the second most powerful position in this government. But where was the will to act before now? It's not more empty words that are needed, it's action. So why does it take tragic events like we witnessed in Skye on Saturday for this government to finally step up and deliver?
First Minister.
I'm trying to be as helpful as I can on this question, but it is a matter of fact that Sir Lewis Ritchie's recommendations were implemented for a 3-year period, but they haven't been sustained. Now, I accept that's not good enough, and that's what the government is addressing. That's why the Health Secretary has met directly in the last 48 hours with the leadership of NHS Highland. He's also met with Kate Forbes, the Deputy First Minister, and the Member of Parliament for Skye, Rawson Lochaber. So, Skye, Lochaber and Badenoch, if I'm correct. So, all of those conversations are taking place to ensure that the implementation of Sir Lewis Ritchie's recommendations are implemented, and they are implemented in short order. And I can give Mr Ross the assurance that the Health Secretary, myself as First Minister, will make sure that this issue is progressed. It should not have taken tragedies to get to this particular point, but I give Parliament the assurance that it has got the attention of ministers to ensure this is addressed promptly.
Douglas Ross.
Skye's health services were once again shown to be deficient at the weekend. Just last Friday, my colleague Jamie Halcrow-Johnson met with campaigners in Portree before these events happened because local people and visitors were worried about the situation. They are still worried now, and they're right to be worried, because what we are getting is comforting words but no sign of action. The action should have happened in 2018. It's as simple as that. We don't ask for independent external reviews and then say, well, they're implemented every now and then. They were required in 2018, and they were required for the entire 6-year period since then, not just for 3 years. But the crisis across healthcare in rural Scotland is a concern to people up and down the country. As this incident has shown, there are black spots across Scotland where urgent treatment is often unavailable. There are sometimes no ambulances if you live in the wrong place. There is a postcode lottery for emergency care. This crisis is costing lives and putting people at risk. So what action will John Swinney take today to make sure everyone in Scotland, regardless of where they live, has the same access to the urgent health care they need and require?
First Minister.
President Officer, I do reiterate to Mr Ross that these recommendations were implemented but they were found to be unable to be sustained. They were implemented for a 3-year period, and I have accepted that that is not good enough and it has to be addressed, which is exactly what the Health Secretary is doing. I think it's important that I put on record what emergency care is available in Skye. There is an advanced nurse practitioner-led, non-emergency appointments-based out-of-hours service in Portree Hospital, which is available by appointment on Saturdays and Sundays and bank holidays from 8:30 in the morning to 7:30 p.m. There is an A&E at Broadford Hospital, which is 30 minutes south of Portree, and in addition to that provision, the Scottish Ambulance Service has 4 double-crewed ambulances that cover Skye, based in Broadford, Portree, Dunvegan and Kyle. But there is a necessity for Sir Lewis Ritchie's recommendations to be implemented. That is exactly what the Health Secretary has insisted with NHS Highland will be undertaken, and that is what will happen. And we will update Parliament about the improvements that are delivered.